Alright, you ready? Let's do it.
He's all sneakers, faded blue jeans, no tricks, no gimmicks. I've been stepping down demons. Rolling up trees in the belly of the beast, where the people disagree. The upper class eat,
Middle don't exist.
the bottom of the beat. Glad I got my sticks, or you jumping on a fad, laying in the ditch.
I be stopping down demons,
stopping down quick.
And please don't come around these parts claiming that we all a bunch of animals. Only time you wanna turn the cameras on is when we fucking shit up.
Come on, it's still ringing, blood on the cement, black folks grieving, headlines reading, trying to pay you no mind. You just living your life. Everyone is a witness, everyone got opinions. Got a son of my own, looking right in his eyes. I ain't living in fear, but I'm holding on tight. Got a son of my own, looking right in his eyes. I ain't living in fear, but I'm holding on tight.
Damn, why the fuck are they after me? Maybe because I'm a bastard, maybe because of the way my hair grows naturally. Trying to figure out why the fuck I'm full of rage. Think I know this is bullshit. Right around the 5th grade, paraphernalia in my locker right next to the switchblade. That's my pussy on my mind and some plans of getting paid. I'm a product of the system, raised on government aid, and I knew just how to react when it was time for that raid. Whoa, the young black man from Compton, wondering who could save us, and could barely read the sentences the justice system gave us. So many rental cars and tricks, I think they probably funded Avis. Some of us wasn't balanced, but some of us use unbalanced. Not all of us criminals, but constantly yelling, stay back, nigga.
We need a little bit of payback.
Treat me like an animal, cause all this shit is flammable. No fuck around us when it's done, it's done.
And then old folks telling us been going on since back in the day, but that don't make it okay. White folks telling all the shooting and the shooting's insane, but you don't know our pain. These cars, we all a bunch of animals. It's when we fucking shit up.
He's all sneakers, faded blue jeans, no tricks, no gimmicks. I've been stomping down demons. Rolling up trees in the belly of the beast, where the people disagree.
The upper class eat, middle don't exist.
The bottom of the beat. Glad I got my sticks, but you jumping on a fad, laying in the ditch.
I be stomping down demons, stomping down quick.
And the old folks tell me it's been going on since but they don't make it okay. And the white folks tell me all the looting and the shooting's insane, but you don't know how pain. The police don't come around these parts, tell me that we all a bunch of animals. Every time they wanna turn the cameras on, it's so we fucking shit up. The police don't come around these parts, tell me that we all a bunch of animals. Every time they wanna turn the cameras on, it's so we fucking shit up. Come on.
Yeah, this is DJ motherfucking Premier. Dr. Dre. Yeah, we fucking shit up. No, we don't play no games, man. Motherfucker, please.
Talk to him, Brain.
One of the reasons that me and you play, we don't lose. I always win. Let's face it, you basic, boy.
That's my joint, man. I'm not even gonna lie. Dr. Dre and DJ Premier, man, that's like Batman and Superman linking up for a track. At least in my world it is. Alright? Anywho, greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher Platt. Welcome to another episode of Straight Talk, where we give it to you straight with no chaser. As always, I am broadcasting live this evening from the Platt Cave. Give me a little bit of water after that. Shout out to the good folks at Perrier this evening for keeping us hydrated. Hope you guys are having a pretty good week out there. How you doing? Hello. How you doing? My name is Christopher. Last name Platt. I'm just picking with y'all, man. So, I had a whole entire show prepared for y'all. I had a whole different show prepared. I was excited about it. I was probably going to piss a lot of y'all off. It was going to be great. But We had to call an audible at the last minute, so we're just going to put that previous show idea on ice for the time being, because I really wanted to talk to you guys about what's going on out there in Ferguson right now. There's a lot of things going on out there in Ferguson right now, and CNN, of course, CNN or Fox or anybody else in that lamestream media, they're not really talking about it right now. So I felt I had to do my due diligence to tell you guys what was going on out there. So we're going to get into that today. I'm also going to take your questions as well. Now, if you are new to the broadcast, we've got a couple of ways to go about doing this thing. First and foremost, you can log on through the social media stream of your choice, be that Facebook, Twitter, whatever the case may be. Now, you can also log on through the actual Ustream site itself. Again, that does require, or of course, rather, that does require a username, password. Y'all know the deal. Y'all know the drill. Now, once you do either of those things, you are now able to participate in our chat. And I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear your questions. I want to hear your comments. I want to hear your concerns. Also, if you have not done this, I want you to subscribe to this show on Ustream. I want you to become a follower on Ustream, okay? It's not that hard to do. I'm sure you've done it for other shows. Do it for this show too, dagnabbit shit. Anywho, how you guys doing out there this evening? Somebody shoot me a line in the chat room just so I know that it is working. Like I said, you can reach me through the social stream or the chat. So we're going to talk about what's going on out there in Ferguson. That's the topic for today's show. We are going to get into that. Before we do that, of course, I'm going to take your questions. And before we do that, as you saw, we were introed in by the new Compton album. That was track 14 called Animals, featuring Dr. Dre and DJ Premier on the beat. And like I said, for me, being a hip-hop head, that's like Batman and Superman linking up. You know what I mean? I was sold. As soon as I found out Preem was on the track, I was sold. So we're going to talk about that. I want to talk about Compton a little bit. Have you guys had a chance to listen to the album yet? And what are your thoughts about it? As we like the ceremonial black and mild, this is just tobacco, ladies and gentlemen. That is not marijuana. I'm not going to be on here committing a crime on the damn internet. Okay, I'm not that stupid. I just look like this, all right? I know y'all think all the pretty ones are dumb, but I wasn't always this pretty. I had to pick up a book or two in my day. Quite frankly, it was a little touch and go there during the high school years, whether or not I was going to grow into the nose, okay? So, relax. So, what are your thoughts about the Compton album? I had a couple of thoughts myself. There was a few takeaways from listening to the album. First and foremost, I want to say that I do thoroughly enjoy the album. And I want to lead off by saying that this was a brilliant move by Dr. Dre. Absolutely brilliant move by Dr. Dre. Now, the reason I say that is because Detox had been so anticipated for so long that there was no way in the world it was going to be able to live up to the expectations. Detox was basically the hip-hop equivalent to Chinese Democracy, because that album had been anticipated for over 20 years. And then when it finally came out, now, full disclosure, I'm not a GNR fan, so I never listened to the album. But from most accounts, it's a pretty good album. It's just that it collapsed under the weight of its expectations. So it couldn't live up to the expectations because it had been anticipated for over 20 years. And Detox would have fell to the same fate. So I like this move by Dre. This was very safe. So you drop the album very low key as the soundtrack to the movie. And that way, if it flops, well, you can just pass it off as it was just the soundtrack to the movie. You know what I mean? So very shrewd move by Dre, and good synergy as well with the movie coming out on Friday as well. I'm looking forward to the movie, but I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous in regards to the movie just because I understand how Hollywood works. And normally what Hollywood does is that the movies that they know are no good, the junk movies, they'll throw them out in August. You know what I mean? Just because hopefully somebody will go see them. That's how you get a movie like Paul Blart becoming the #1 movie in America. You know what I mean? Excuse me. So they'll throw the movies that they don't think are good out there in August as they gear up for the last big rush of the summer, which is going to come on Labor Day weekend. Right? Now, so that makes me a little nervous. However, I take solace in it that maybe they just weren't sure that white people were going to go to this movie. You know what I mean? They weren't sure that white folks were going to spend money to go to this movie, so then they put it out there. And the only parallel I really have is the Notorious Big movie that came out a few years ago. And that movie, it wasn't number one at the box office when it opened. And the only reason that I know that is because when I heard it, I was completely shocked that it wasn't. But see, I overestimated Biggie's cultural appeal, or his cultural relevance, rather. I overestimated Biggie's cultural relevance. I guess Biggie was more of a cult thing, as opposed to, you know what I mean? He didn't have the widestream acclaim as say a Tupac, or even an NWA for that matter. So I'm going to check it out, and I hope it's a pretty good movie. So another takeaway I have from the album is that it kind of has the vibe of a family reunion. You know what I mean? It really has the vibe of a family reunion, because of course it's a Dre album, so of course he's on there. But Snoop is on there, Eminem, Ice Cube gave him a verse. It was good to hear Exhibit's voice. The Game is on a song. Speaking of family reunion, The Game is kind of like in the family reunion run. The Game is kind of like that crazy cousin you have that you love him because that's your cousin, and deep down he's a good dude, but his mouth just always end up getting him into some shit, so you really don't rock with him all like that. That's Game. Game is that crazy cousin, but he got some time. And Eazy-E was even on the album, which was real cool. I wasn't really a big Eazy fan, but it was really cool to hear him on the album and the way that they used him. If you haven't heard the album, the way that he's on the album, it's absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now, another takeaway from the Compton album, or something else that I took away from the Compton album, was, it's very easy to get caught up sonically, or to get caught up in the music of a Dr. Dre album, because sonically it's always flawless. Sonically, it is always flawless and pleasing to your ears. But they're saying some stuff on this album as well. They're saying some stuff to this album on this album as well. And it's actually the perfect bridge to Kendrick's album, which he dropped late last year. It's almost as if this album is the epilogue to the Kendrick album. And he's on the album as well. So to play into that family reunion vibe that I said that the album had, you have a lot of the young guys. You have Kendrick and a couple of other young guys. So it's almost like the OGs are passing the torch to this new generation. You know what I mean? And another takeaway that I have from the album, and this might just be me thinking too deeply into it, but you got to remember, when NWA first came out as a group, they were very political. They were extremely political. They were the West Coast answer to Public Enemy. And so there was murder, death, kill, pussy, blunts, and all of that, bitches and blunts and all that. But there was context to all that stuff as well. You know what I mean? There was context to it. So then what happened once corporate America figured out that they could make $1 promoting this hip hop / rap music? Because initially they thought it was just going to be a fad like disco. So once corporate America got a hold of it and found out that they could make $1 off of it, you've got all these people involved with hip hop that know nothing about hip hop. They don't know anything about the culture. They don't listen to the music. They don't know anything about it whatsoever. So all they hear is murder, death, kill, blunts, bitches, pussy, and all that. So then consequently, that's what they start to tell the artists to push. Murder, death, kill, bitch, and pussy. So with all the murder, death, kill, bitch, and pussy, the context and the politicalness of it was lost, and it became just about that. And quite frankly, who is more synonymous with that quote-unquote gangster rap genre than Dre? So another takeaway that I took from this album is that perhaps that it almost sounds as if Dre, as an older man, because he's 50, he's in his 50s now, is looking back, and he's trying to, almost like an old gunslinger, riding into town one more time to right the wrongs and set everything on the right path before he rides out into the sunset. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Now take that review with a grain of salt, because initially I thought Jesus was about the struggles of reaching adulthood and the being scared about having a daughter. In reality, it was just a temper tantrum directed at the fashion industry. So take that with a grain of salt. I might have overthought it on that one. Now, one last takeaway, and this is really a question that I pose to you all, is that where does Dr. Dre rank in the pantheon of hip hop artists? I mean, with his body of work, his track record, and everything that he's done, where does he rank in the pantheon? Doesn't he have to be on the Mount Rushmore of hip hop? Doesn't Dre have to be on the Mount Rushmore of hip hop just based off his track record? And again, I'm not going to turn this into an argument as to who should be on Mount Rushmore, because hip hop is so subjective that we'll be sitting up here for hours and we won't ever be able to come up with a consensus. But doesn't Dre have to be on that Mount Rushmore, just considering everything that he's done, the people that he's put on that are first ballot Hall of Famers as well? Like I saw a guy say this. I'm stealing this. I didn't say this myself. I'm stealing this from a guy. But he said that basically Dre did everything that Jay-Z talks about, but better, with the exception of Beyonce, of course. All hail the queen. Which I thought that was very interesting, and it was spot on. So where does Dr. Dre rank, especially with this new release in Compton? Where does he rank in the pantheon of hip hop artists? Just something to ponder. But again, this album, I think, is the perfect soundtrack to the tumultuous times of which that we find ourselves in. This is the perfect album for that. And if you really go back and listen to it and vibe out to it and hear what they're saying, they're spitting game. They're giving you a message, letting y'all know, okay, it's time to get off that bullshit, man. Like, we got to get serious now. So I personally love the album. Yeah, what's up, Mar? Yeah, you can, man. He's got to be on there on Mount Rushmore. Both. That's my point. Mar says artist or producer, and that's my point. Both. You know what I mean? He represents on both ends, which is why he's got to be on there, because obviously nobody's checking for Dre the lyricist, but it's hard to separate the two, right? That's why I just said hip hop artist. You know what I mean? And that encompasses everything. Producing, lyrics, whatever, music, vibe, albums, moves that he's made within hip hop, people that he's put on in hip hop that are now household names. But I highly recommend that album, and I'm so happy I have something to listen to, because it's been a while. I'm showing my age here, but Fetty Wap is cool, but all that, I suppose. But I'm not gonna rock out to Fetty Wap. Like, I ain't gonna be in my car talking about some trap queen. I'm just not there in life anymore. You know what I mean? That's just not me. That's just not where I'm at anymore. So yeah, I think that, yeah. But like I said, all things considered, yeah, excellent album. If you haven't checked it out, what the hell is wrong with you? Go check it out right now. Excellent album. So again, if you're just tuning in, I had to switch the show tonight. I wanted to give you guys an update on the things that are going on in Ferguson. And before we get to that, I want to run through a few of your questions, and then we'll get to that. So let me see what you guys got going on here. Let's see. Tristan Thompson. Do you think he's really worth max money? That's a good question, especially me being a Cleveland guy. So for those of you that don't know, Tristan Thompson is a power forward for my Cleveland Cavaliers. So let me give you a little bit of the backstory. So he's a free agent this offseason. So during the season, the team offered him I think a $50 million deal, and he turned it down. So now we're in the offseason. Now they offered him $80 million, and I think he's holding out for $95. Now, let me break that situation down to y'all like a compound fraction, okay? That's not really so much about Tristan Thompson as it is a pissing contest between Dan Gilbert and LeBron James. It's a pissing contest between Dan Gilbert and LeBron James. Now, Tristan Thompson is represented by LeBron James' agency. Now it's not just LeBron, and I don't want to pass that impression off. It's LeBron and his peoples, and I know one of his peoples. He's a really good dude, real sharp guy. So yeah, I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But all this is a pissing contest between Dan Gilbert and LeBron James. Because see, what's going on is that Dan Gilbert has no leverage whatsoever. Dan Gilbert has no leverage whatsoever. LeBron is calling the shots, and because LeBron has all the leverage. He left once, he will leave again. And Dan knows that. Dan's not a dumb guy. Dan knows that. Dan is very intelligent, which is one of the reasons why Nat Cage is still coaching. You know what I mean? Because it's his ego. That's why this Tristan Thompson thing hasn't been resolved yet, because it's his ego. Like, he knows LeBron has all the leverage, but he's like, I'm the owner, and his ego is getting in the way. That's the same reason why Nat Cage is still the coach, when we all know that nigga couldn't manage a Starbucks in Hoboken, New Jersey, let alone an NBA franchise, right? So, but it's a pissing contest. So Dad is trying to show his muscle, and it's not going to work, obviously. Now, look at Tristan, the player. He's a 6'11" power forward, extremely athletic, doesn't get injured, and plays hard. Like, those guys tend to get their money. Now, see, a lot of y'all are looking through this, though, with rose-colored glasses, because, low-key, you're jealous of the money that those athletes make. Now, we'll get back to that in a minute, though. We'll get back to that in a minute. So, you also got to see where Tristan came from, because he's young. Now, he came out, he was the number 4 pick the same year that we got Kyrie Irving. And when they picked him, I can admit, I was like, But you got to give the man his due. That man has worked his ass off, and he has worked and made himself into a quality NBA player. And he's only going to get better. He is only going to get better. And his particular skill set, they normally get paid for that, right? You can't teach 6'11", you can't teach athleticism, and you can't teach a motor. Now, for pure comparison, K Love just got $100 million, and he's injury prone. And we don't even know if he's fit for that system yet. We haven't even established that he's a fit for that system yet. See? And I agree, Mar, the Cavs can't afford to lose him. But see, this is the kicker. See, this is the kicker right here that nobody's really talking about. And this is where I believe Rich and Randy and LeBron and those brothers and Maverick, there's where they're coming from, okay? Next year, the new TV deal kicks in. Next year in the NBA, the new TV deal kicks in. So, and for those that don't know, Turner and Disney, they re-upped to have the rights to show NBA basketball to the tune of $24 billion with a B. Now, what that means is that the revenue is going to increase for the foreseeable future. Every year, the revenue is going to increase for the foreseeable future, which means that the salary cap is going to increase for the foreseeable future as well. Now, to break that down in layman's terms, the more money that the owners make, the more money they'll be able to play the players. So in 2 or 3 years, Tristan Thompson for $95 million is going to be a steal. In 2 to 3 years, Tristan Thompson for $95 million. Remember, with everything we kept saying, he's a hard worker. He's only going to get better. He's not injury prone. He's an athlete. That's going to seem like a steal. But see, that's a real easy narrative to push on the American public, the overpriced athlete, because again, y'all low key are envious of the money that those guys make. And you know what else is funny? I see a lot of people, man, trying to count the owner's pockets. Like, why are you trying to count a billionaire's pockets? They'll say, oh my God, he can't afford them and this and that. How are you going to count a billionaire's pockets, man? See, if you could get over your envy, you would be able to ask a very simple and common sense question, which is, well, if the owners are hurting that badly, wouldn't they just sell the team? If the owner is really that hard up for money, wouldn't he just sell the team, right? Isn't that the reason you have an asset? See, because billionaires don't think like you do. See, we get money and we sit on it, or we spend it on frivolous stuff. But to have money and to just sit on it, it depreciates in value. If you know what I mean, that brown paper bag under the mattress, drug money. And I don't literally mean, I'm being facetious when I say drug money. I'm trying to be cute. But just hanging on to your money and just letting it sit there, it actually depreciates in value. So what you do, and what billionaires do, is that they go out and they purchase assets. They use that money and go purchase assets. So now if it comes up that you do need some cash, you need some cash, there's one or two things you can do. You can either leverage that asset to get some cash. So again, just to break this down in layman's terms, let's say I'm at a pawn shop and I go to pawn this watch, okay? Because I need cash. So this is an asset, okay? So for this asset, I'm going to be able to get cash. Now, I'm not going to be able to get a lot of cash because I'm at a pawn shop. So clearly I need the money. I need the money. So I have no leverage. But I just wanted to break it down to you like that so you would understand what I mean by leverage the asset for cash, right? Or if you really do need to get liquid real quick, and all liquid means is an influx of cash, you sell that asset. That's what I was trying to tell you, Noel, if you're watching. If you need an influx of cash, you just sell that asset. That's the reason why you have assets. Because when you let the money just sit there, it depreciates. Because we talk about it all the time on this show, how our money isn't worth the paper the paper it's printed on and the ink that's on it. So when it just sits there, it depreciates. So that's why you put that into assets. And the reason you have an asset is if you need to get liquid real quick, all liquid means is an infusion of cash. So you can either leverage that asset to get some cash, or you just flat out sell that asset, right? Does that make sense? So he's going to end up getting that money, and he should get that money. Don't count these owners' pockets for him, man. They got you buying that game. Now, what I would be mad about if I was you, Cleveland, what I would be upset about is this article that was in the New York Times about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And in the article, they discussed how Dan Gilbert, Jimmy Haslam, and Dolan, I can't remember Dolan's first name, but the owner of the Cavs, the Browns, and the Indians, respectfully, how they petitioned and politic to get a sin tax in Cleveland on beer and tobacco and alcohol and anything else that you may consider fun. Sin tax, yeah, just like it sounds. Now with that sin tax, I think it's like an extra 2%. That money is going to go towards, that money is going to accrue into $235 million annually that is supposed to go towards the renovation and upkeep of the stadiums in town. Now, this is how the big boys do it. Some of that money is going to go toward the teams and toward the renovations of the stadium because it's got to look good. You know what I mean? So the Indians might actually pay a couple of good players to stay for a change. There might be a new jumbotron outside the queue. Maybe the Cleveland Browns stadium will get some new lights hung up or something like that. But I'll bet you dollars to donuts that a lot of that money is going to be filtered into some of their outside ventures and outside businesses, whatever they may be. So see, you so stuck being worried about what these athletes are making and being low-key jealous of what these athletes are making that you can't see the forest for the trees. So imagine, and meanwhile, Cleveland is sitting up there with a 37% unemployment rate. Jesus. How many jobs could $235 million annually put into Cleveland? But you're worried about these athletes and what they make. And basically, you just mad because you're a pawn and they're bishops. Now, that's for all my chess people. Now, a bishop might have a little more free range of movements than the pawn. But the bottom line is you're still pieces on the chessboard. And if need be, you will be sacrificed to protect the king. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So yeah, man, don't count billionaires' pockets, man, because that's how they get you. Because they try to fool you like they think like you, but they don't think like you. Yeah, so don't fall for the okie doke, man. Do not fall for that okie doke. Speaking of overpaid billionaires, did you watch the GOP debate? I'm getting good with these segues, by the way. Did you watch the GOP debate? I did, and I freaking loved it. I loved every single bit of it. Now, a lot of people afterwards, they were very disappointed. I was, kind of taking the temperature on social media, and a lot of people were very disappointed. And the main reason that I believe people were disappointed is that they went into the debate rather, with the wrong expectations. I went into the debate expecting a shit show, and I was not disappointed. That is exactly what it was. It was a complete shit show. That's all it was, and I loved every minute of it. I thought it was so entertaining. I really did. Now, something that was new was this crowd cheering like it was a damn ball game. That was a little discerning. These things used to have a certain level of decorum, but I guess that's out the window now, huh? But I thought it was absolutely great. And the reason is, see, you can't take that stuff too seriously, because see, politics. The reason I pay attention to politics for the exact same reason that I love pro wrestling. I pay attention to the political game for the exact same reason that I love pro wrestling. Does that make sense? And as a matter of fact, pro wrestling is probably a little more real because those guys actually get hurt. Speaking of pro wrestling, that's probably a good move for Hulk Hogan. Be Donald Trump's vice presidential candidate, right? That works out, right? What you gonna do when the nigga hater and the wetback slayer run wild on you? When I first started that joke, I thought I was gonna puss out and not say wetbacks, but I did. But yeah, man, you gotta look at that game like it's pro wrestling. Because think about it, man. This is how you know it's a game, because one of those schmucks might mess around and become the actual president of the United States. And yeah, the one thing that stood out for me though was that they spent all of about 45 seconds talking about Black Lives Matter, which lets you know that Black lives don't matter to them. So that did stand out. But other than that, man, enjoy it for what it is, man. This is highly entertaining. Enjoy it for that. Enjoy it for what exactly it is. Speaking of Black Lives Matter, I saw Bernie Sanders. He got accosted this weekend. He was at a rally out somewhere, maybe Seattle. And the Black Lives Matter, a couple of the Black Lives Matter people jumped up on stage and was acting the ass. And you know what I mean? Just acting real ignorant. Let me break that down for you like a compound fraction. I don't know if you guys heard about that. Let me break that down for you, okay? The Black Lives Matter movement, or whatever the hell it is, I don't even know what it's classified as, but that Black Lives Matter thing, that's funded by this guy named George Soros. Now, you can look this up for yourself. His name is George Soros. Its last name is Sorros. George Soros. He's like a hedge fund manager or something like that. So whenever you see these Black Lives Matter people showing out at different debates and rallies and stuff like that, and you sit up here thinking, how the hell them hood rat broads get a ticket to that? That's why, because he's funding them. They're being funded by a billionaire. Now, the game is that George Soros is a very big Clinton supporter. He spent a lot of money on Hillary Clinton's campaign. So that's what that is. So see, they're using that Black Lives Matter thing as their minions. And that's why they went out there, Bernie Sanders, because he's really the only viable Democratic opposition that she has to the White House. So that was all game. And that's not to defend Bernie Sanders, because I've been a little disappointed in him. But that's what that is. You just got to be able to beat game. Again, the guy's name is George Soros. So what's going to happen is that they're going to ride that Black Lives Matter. And you see Hillary, she's coming out. She's been talking about the police brutality and the killings and this and that. And Clinton even came out and apologized, because Clinton was the one that enacted that three strike policy and the mandatory minimum. So that meant all drug offenders had to do their mandatory sentence. And as a result, our prisons became overcrowded. And now we had to let out rapists and murderers. And more so than that, you got a lot of brothers just sitting up there rotting in jail for some bullshit drug charges. And he came out and apologized. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's cool, but what are you going to do to make it right? But let me stop, because y'all love y'all some Clit. Y'all love some Clit, man. All he had to do was go on Arsenio and play the saxophone, tell y'all niggas he ate McDonald's and he hooped, and y'all was just all over. Y'all was just all on it. But yeah, you always got to watch the money, man. Where you find the money, you'll find the motives. And you'll get to the truth eventually, right? You just got to get to the money. Let me see, what else do we have going on here? Did you hear about the free bleeding feminist thing? Yeah, I heard something about that. There was some feminist. She ran a marathon this weekend, and it was her time of the month. And as opposed to putting on a pad or a tampon, she just bled the whole race. Like she was just bleeding out the whole race. And quite frankly, I don't know what that was meant to accomplish unless you're trying to attract sharks. And that whole feminist movement, I don't really know what that's trying to accomplish anyway. See, the problem I have with the feminist movement is that, number one, the feminist movement was never meant to challenge white supremacy. They just simply wanted a seat at the table. And number two, I know where the feminist movement started from. Now, we'll get into that on another episode. I'm not going to go there tonight because we got bigger things to talk about. But God bless her. I guess she's doing her part, so God bless her, But let me say this, man, when it comes to the women thing, when it comes to the people of color thing, the opposite of racism or sexism is not seeing color or not seeing gender. The opposite of that is seeing the differences, appreciating the differences, understanding the differences, and then not going into those interactions with any preconceived notions you may have based on some bullshit. You understand? So treating a man like a woman is not equality. Or treating a woman like a man is not equality. Treating a woman like a human being, that's equality. So like, don't call me a misogynist, women, if I call you sweetheart or dear or darling. That's just the same as me talking to a man saying my dude. You know what I mean? Or bruh. Like, you're not a man. I'm not going to call you my dude. But that doesn't mean that I'm trivializing you. Because I feel your plight. I get that. And that's one of the big reasons I'm like, dude, we got to get over this race thing. Because we got a whole can of worms with this man-woman thing that we haven't even begun to open yet. And we got to start to deal with that. But we got to get past this race thing first, man. So yeah, I'm all down for women equality and all that, man. You still laughing at Mars? Still laughing at the shark comment? But I don't really know. Yeah, what that's supposed to. I don't know what that was supposed to accomplish at all. Let me see. What other questions do we have here? Should I just get to the topic, or should I do one more question? I'll take one more question. Let me see. Find me a good one. What are your thoughts on the Geno Smith situation? I think both them niggas was wrong, but Geno was a little more wrong. Y'all hear about that one? Geno Smith, the starting quarterback for the New York Jets. So he got into it with a guy, one of his teammates. One thing led to another. The guy punched Geno and broke his jaw in two places, and Geno's going to be out for 6 to 10 weeks. And I tend to side with the dude that punched him more than I side with Gino, although he shouldn't have punched Gino. You know what I mean? So the situation was basically the linebacker that punched him out. He asked Gino to come to his football camp for youths, and he bought Gino's plane ticket. It was like $600, and Gino had to cancel at the last minute because one of his friends was killed. So he canceled at the last minute, and he told the guy that he was going to pay the money back. However, he never did. So the guy approached Gino about it, and they say Gino was real smug and condescending about it. And he even, he put his finger in the guy's face, and as a result, he got punched. He got knocked the fuck out and broke his jaw. Now he's gonna be out for 6 to 10 weeks. That's the story in a nutshell. Now, a couple of things. They were both in the wrong. You can't go around punching people in the mouth all willy nilly. Dude clearly made a mistake. But a couple of things about Gino. Number one, if he was the franchise quarterback, this 6th-round draft pick linebacker wouldn't have even been able to get that close to him to punch him in the mouth. So that tells you a lot about what Gino's teammates think about him, right? And we've reached the point, at least in the NFL, where I can talk about a black quarterback and say that he sucks. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to defend every black quarterback because there's enough of them, right? So, yeah. Bears, they smell the minstrel. Brick Tamlin, that's funny. That's funny. So maybe she's going to attract Smokey the Bear in them too, huh? But and a lot of this too, man, it's because a lot of people are like, oh my God, he shouldn't have punched him, and he sucker punched him, and this and that. And a lot of that are cultural differences as well. And we run into this, especially as black men, when we have to deal with the dominant society. We run into these types of situations a lot. You know what I mean? And there's a cultural difference that we don't really talk about, and that white people might not even be aware of. And then when you try to express that to them, it turns into a thing, or they just shut down. They don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? You just acting irrational or whatever, because there's certain things that you just can't do to a black man. Like, you just can't wag your finger in a black man's face. Like, that's just the ultimate sign of disrespect, and poke him in the chest and this and that. Like, there's just certain cultural things that we don't respond well to, and people don't know that. And then when we react a certain way, it's easy to tag that, the angry black man label on us. But there's just certain cultural things that we don't respond to. Mar says principles, and I agree. Yeah, there's just certain things that we don't respond well to. And that Gino situation in the aftermath expresses that. And that whole, so that was just a cultural thing, and I understand both parties were wrong. I'm glad the dude found another job. He just got picked up by Buffalo today, the guy that got cut, because they obviously had to cut him, because this guy is the starting quarterback. You can't just go punching out the starting quarterback. Now he's out 6 to 10 weeks, you know what I mean, because you can't really call Hike with a broken jaw. So I understand why they had to cut him. That was business. So I get it. But yeah, nobody was really good in that. And y'all millennials, man, some of y'all just on some other stuff, man. A lot of y'all just on some other stuff, man. Dads, man, y'all got to start staying at home and raising these men, yo. That's the bottom line. Because a lot of these men were raised by these single women, and that's not a knock on single women at all. But a lot of these single women were hood rats, and obviously not every single woman is a hood rat. But it's very hard for a woman to raise a man, or a woman to raise a man, because you'll grow up with that feminine energy. You know what I mean? You'll grow up with that feminine energy, and you can't really react to situations the same way that a woman would. Especially in the climate we're in now, man, that shit could get you killed. We're a threat. Whether warranted or unwarranted, we're a threat, and you just can't react like certain ways. You just can't react. Period. Flat out. End of discussion. So let me see. What else do we have here? Well, let me get to this Ferguson thing, man, because that's what I really wanted to talk about. Let's get to this Ferguson thing, man. Let me give y'all an update on what's going on down there in Ferguson. So what happened this weekend is that there was a rally this weekend because the commemorating the 1-year anniversary of the death of Michael Brown down there in Ferguson. So a lot of people gathered, and I know Talib Kweli for a fact. He was down there and he gave a free concert, and there was just a lot of black people congregating down in that area. Now, I don't know if you remember, but on this show we have talked about, I told you about how there are these white militia groups all over the country in damn near every state that are ready, willing, and able. A lot of them are ex-military, ex-law enforcement, you know what I mean? Just like thorough dudes. And at the drop of the dime, they can come in and be deputized and kind of help to deal with the situation, in quotation marks, the situation. So, in that vein, down there in Ferguson, they have called for a state of emergency. Now, all a state of emergency means is martial law. You just can't say martial law because people lose their shit when they hear the word martial law. Same thing as to how they couldn't call this economic downturn from a depression. They had to call it a recession because the word depression scares people. Same thing with this. So they called it a state of emergency, but really that just means martial law. Okay? Mar said, tread lightly, bro. This is straight talk, bro. This is straight talk, man. You know what I mean? I'm a target either way. So, I got to try to wake up my people. So, yeah, so in line with the militia groups, there was a group of, as Tariq Nasheed calls them, suspected white supremacists by the name of Oath Keepers. Okay? Now, they traveled down there to Ferguson under the geist of protecting the store owners and the stores from looting. But there's a bunch of white men walking around Ferguson right now with AR assault rifles, highly trained, by the way, highly trained with AR assault rifles and guns, just walking around Ferguson, the streets of Ferguson right now. Now, juxtapose that to what's going on with the blacks down there. And again, you haven't heard anything about this on the lamestream media, which is why I felt it was my duty to bring this up right now. If I'm lying, let me know. If anybody has seen something about this on the news, please let me know. But it appears to be a media blackout from what I've seen. And they do that. Just like you don't know, 3 weeks ago, there was a reparations rally out in England. You didn't know nothing about that. Did you? So they're down there running around with their rifles and stuff like that. Meanwhile, they're arresting black people for anything. Like, black folks down there getting arrested for anything. I saw a video today. They shot a guy down there in Ferguson. They shot him. I don't know if the guy died, but they shot him and they're laying there over in his body. And the guy is sitting up there taping it with his phone. And they arrested him. So they're arresting people for videotaping the police, which is completely legal, by the way. So that's why I say they're down there arresting black people for anything. Now, let me just ask you a hypothetical question. What you think would happen if my black ass was out there in Ferguson with an assault rifle, just walking around? What do you think would happen? So again, the Oath Keepers, they're hiding behind the geist of protecting the store owners and the shops out there in Ferguson. But let me read something for you off their website. I went to their website. I'm just gonna read a little bit off of their website for you, okay? About Oath Keepers, okay? Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current and former serving military, police, and first responders. So see, I told you, like, these dudes are thorough. Which was why Reg would, if Reg you watching, man, that's another reason I was trying to link with you, man, and pop that off, because that's something that we need. Who pledged to fulfill the oath all military and police take. And here's the kicker right here. To, in quotations, defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. See, that's coded language right there. And the white supremacists, they specialize in coded language. So whenever you hear somebody talking about defending the Constitution, that's code. Because remember, the Constitution, during the time that the Constitution was written and ratified, well, blacks, we weren't even considered humans. And women, y'all weren't considered much better. You know what I mean? So we weren't even thought of. Like, we weren't even taken into consideration. So that's code. Just like when you hear somebody say, I wish things could go back to how they used to be. And I say, what, like in the 50s? You know what I mean? And they'll say, no, to what our founding fathers fought. Oh, you mean them motherfuckers that didn't think I was even human? Or people that looked like me were even human? You know what I mean? So you got to watch out for that. That's coded language. Let me see, what else do they say here? Let's see. Oath Keepers also includes a membership program designated as associate members, which consists of patriotic citizens who have not served in uniform, but who serve now by supporting this mission. So they're rallying. Our motto is not on our watch. And they're down there in Ferguson right now. And I personally know of at least 2 people that have been down there that got shot and killed. Now, of course, if it comes out in the media, they're going to say that the cops were fearful for their life, or people were trying to attack them, or this and that. But how many times do y'all have to hear the same damn story before you realize it's bullshit? So that's going on down there right now. Meanwhile, we all down there, and we partying, we kicking it, and we just otherwise, we taking selfies, and we otherwise just kind of hanging out, just kind of there, because that's all we know how to do. We don't know how to do anything else. Meanwhile, while this white militia group is down there, and that's the only one I know of, ain't no telling who else is down there, walking around in plain sight of the cops with their assault rifles and everything else. We sitting down there kicking it, because that's all we know how to do. We need to be down there organizing. We need to be down there strategizing. And we're just kicking it. And they're throwing people in jail left and right for anything. 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 But again, you're not hearing about this in the media. They're not talking about this at all. And why not? Well, you know why not? Because the media outlets are owned by the same people. Everything is owned by the same people. Like, literally, I'm not bullshitting. Like, literally everything in this country is owned by like the same 5 or 6 corporations. And again, you didn't know anything about this, did you? Be honest. If you did, you did. If you didn't, be honest. So we sitting up there kicking it, and they sitting up there plotting and they strategizing. Don't think they're not. Because see, they were expecting this. And they knew what to do because they learned from what happened last year. So they knew what to do. And they called in reinforcements. And meanwhile, you sitting up there kicking it, and they throwing your black ass in jail, and you ain't doing a damn thing about it. You ain't doing a damn thing about it. So when I say the words Nazi Germany, That should resonate with you, but it won't, because you'll just say I'm tripping. And see, this is the part I don't understand, because I say things to you all, and I tell you, you know what, this is what's about to happen, or this is what they're about to do, and you'll pay me no mind. You know what I mean? Oh, that guy, he's tripping, right? Then it happens. Now, some of you are person enough to come up and say, you know what, man, you were right. Yeah, that I didn't think it was gonna go down like that, but it went down exactly how you said it. Now, some of y'all are person enough to say that. But even if that is the case, like, okay, so you heard me say something, you didn't believe me. It happened like I said it was gonna go down. So shouldn't common sense tell you, well, maybe this dude knows what he's talking about, and maybe we need to begin to try to do something, right? Right? Or are you just gonna sit back there and wait for your turn? You just go sit back and wait till they come for you, huh? Like, the bottom line is, man, we're living in a system of white supremacy, and white supremacy don't give a damn about you. It don't give a damn about no women. Don't give a damn about no gays. Don't give a damn about other white people. Truth be told. Oh, A. Rose says, and apparently the Oath Keepers were there to protect the media. Yeah, I saw that too. They were hiding under that. So I don't know if you guys ever heard of Alex Jones. He's one of those freedom fighting suspected white supremacist dudes, man. And the other reason I say that is because he said a lot of greasy things about black people in the past, and they were down there to protect his camera crew, because I guess his camera crew got roughed up last time. So yeah, they're hiding behind that as well. The media, who's to know, man? Who's to know if the media was being threatened? Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. And some of them probably were. I'm not gonna lie, some of them probably were, because you don't really want to have cameras on that right now. It's martial law, and y'all cracking heads. You don't really want to have cameras out there like that. You know what I mean? You don't want to show the truth. And even when they do have media down there, they don't show the truth. They have you thinking it's just a bunch of niggas just wilding out, which that's not the truth. That's not the case, and that doesn't represent all black people down there. Exactly. Now, I'm not gonna say that on air, but Reg, remember what we were talking about? That's why I was talking about it. This is exactly why I was talking about it, among other reasons, of course. Yeah, I'm not gonna say that one on the site, but imagine if there was some black militia groups down there just marching peacefully with their guns. How would that have gone over? I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. And y'all don't see what's going on, man. Meanwhile, they sitting up here, they plotting, they strategizing, and they're watching you. They're watching you. They're watching your movements. See, this is why marching and protesting, this is why that shit doesn't work anymore, because we did that in the 60s. So they learned from that, right? That's why it doesn't work anymore. That's why that doesn't work anymore. That's why that doesn't work anymore. So yeah, they're sitting down there under martial law, and our brothers and sisters should be under attack, or being under attack rather. And I mean, one thing we could do, man, we should have like a fund, so that when people get arrested, we can pay their bail and get them out just like that. You know what I mean? Just like that. We should have them we should be able to funnel some money down there, and so we can rotate them. As they go in, we get them right back out. But see, y'all don't do that because y'all don't understand the way that the game is played, man. Every other nationality thinks as a group, man, and they look out for each other. Even though they might not get along individually, they look out for each other, but we don't do that. We don't do that. So that's what's going on down there in Ferguson, man. It's the 1 year anniversary for Mike Brown. We down there kicking it. They down there with guns. And if you don't see a problem with that, I don't even really know what to tell you from there. But I had to let y'all know what was going on down there. I had to let you know. See? They're not playing anymore, man. So it's time for y'all to get serious. We can't even get together without no drinking and drugs and whatnot involved. And actually have some honest dialogue. Yeah. It's real in the field, man. It's real in the field. Anywho, if you guys are new to the broadcast, we do this every Wednesday night at 9:30 Eastern, okay? Be sure to follow me on Facebook at Christopher Platt. You can also follow me on Twitter at The Real C Platt. And I'm also now on Instagram at CD Platt. All right? God willing, man. God willing. Because, see, the thing is, and I can't say what I want to say to y'all because I'll scare you. So I don't want to go there because I'll scare you. But I can kind of see where this is heading. And that's why I'm so urgent that we need to do something. And I saw where this was heading last year this time, which is why I started this platform in the first place. But I'm not going to go there because I don't want to scare you. But, something got to be done, man. And I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm saying I ask the right questions. Let's figure something out. Anywho, God willing, I'll see each and every one of you back here next week. Bring 2 people with you. Till we meet again, bump that Compton. Shalom.